Hello, everybody. I'm Skip Elsheimer. Welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime streaming show, where my webcam is acting weird. I can't quite adjust the levels. I don't know what happened. I have to relaunch something. But yeah, so we just watched some stock footage from Cornet Films. Whenever they would shoot a film or footage for a specific film, they would keep the outtakes so that they could reuse it later. And so sometimes you'll see, I certainly have watched enough of these films to see like, oh, that film, that scene's from another film that I've seen. And so that's what they did. And so I've been going through and scanning a bunch of these. And in fact, some people ask, like, why am I starting early? Well, I have a lot of these things, and they just look so great. The color is beautiful, and it's stuff that's just kind of raw footage. The scenes go on longer than most scenes that show up in an educational film. So, yeah, I thought, yeah, I'd like to show these. You know, the value. And I start showing before the 1 o'clock time, so I only let it run a couple of minutes into past the 1 o'clock time. This next film is an interesting little thing. Came from a collector who we've been scanning stuff for, the Nelsons in Houston, Texas, Paul and Elizabeth. And this one was written on the can, Town for Sale. And this looked like this is a promotional film for a specific town. And so you would have some itinerant filmmakers that would travel around, and even companies that would say, they would approach like the Chamber of Commerce in a given town or city and say, hey, we can do a film for you that highlights your town and some of its businesses, the natural resources there. And this is a great advertisement for, one, people moving to your town, two, companies moving to your town. And hoping to relocate. This is a great way to kind of highlight, and also it would be something you could show to the townspeople too, because they might show up. So here's a Town for Sale, and I don't think there's narration. There is music added to it. So here we go. Enjoy. Well, that was fast. It was an excerpt. So chances are this was something that was purchased on eBay, and hopefully the person who sold it didn't clip it up. Like some people on eBay, they find films at estate sales and thrift stores and things like that, and they clip out specific scenes that they think will sell better. And so a train footage they know will sell really well, so they'll clip that out. And it's very frustrating because, whatever information you can glean from a reel, compilation reel that a person made when they shot the footage is lost immediately when you clip it up and then you send it out into the world. And so it's hard to, find out information. Like you could see, if it was, for example, a home movie, and you had at the beginning like a title that said the name of the people and the year, then you could try to hunt those people down or hunt down their the descendants of those people and get a sense of maybe where things are and get context for where things are. But when that stuff gets clipped up, it's kind of sad. So eBay. All right, this next film is about responsibility. and it's a Centron film distributed by Young American Films. Young American Films has great logo, has an awesome logo, and the eagle looks like it has a sickle in its eye, which is really awesome. So here's Responsibility.
Hello, I'm Jim Gordon. The people I work with call me Mr. Gordon. At least when I'm around, they do. They're about your age. That's right, your age. You see, I'm principal of Lincoln High School. My job is to help boys and girls be the kind of young men and women they'd like to be. Capable, educated, and responsible. This sheet of paper is mighty important to two of our young people. I don't know what's on it, but I do know that it could make a big difference in the lives of Hank Evans and Lloyd Smith. However, the contents of the paper would make the most difference to Hank Evans. Before I look at it, I'd like to tell you some things about Hank Evans. And I know more about him than he thinks I know. Hank Evans came to Lincoln High School from Lowell School. His older sister Vera had been one of our best students, and we were glad to have another Evans at Lincoln. It was the opening day of school, and Hank was in the midst of...
Jane Cox? Here. Henry Evans?
Here.
You're Vera Evans' brother, aren't you? I had Vera last
Yeah, I'm
year.
her brother, but can't I be just plain Hank Evans?
Lloyd Smith?
Here.
Hank Evans had a right to expect that he be treated as an individual, not just as Vera Evans' younger brother. But it's the things that come out after you've known a person a while that really tell you about him. For instance, about the third week of school in Miss Jackson's English class, Hank decided...
Very important to discover why Shakespeare introduced the ghost into the scene. Now, just a moment now, just a minute. Will you please follow through on chapters 9 and 10, just as you did chapter 8 today, and be ready to discuss them tomorrow? You got that now? Chapters 9 and 10. All right, we may go now.
Hi, Sam. Hi, Lloyd. How's the boy? How are you? Hi, John.
Next to you.
Hi, John. How are you? Hey. Oh, why don't they let us out of class on time? I've got to go clear over to the other side of the building. Oh, I know what you mean. I got the same...
Miss Jackson, I'm sorry, but I didn't get the complete assignment for tomorrow. There was so much noise in the hall.
I know, and I'm sorry. It's chapters 9 and 10. Read them and be ready to discuss them tomorrow.
Chapters 9 and 10. Read and be ready to recite in class, as we have been doing. Is that it?
That's it. And I promise not to wait until the end of the period to make the assignment next time.
Thank you.
I'm glad that's done. Homework in every class but Miss Jackson's. It's a wonder she didn't... Say, she did say something about 2 chapters. But what? And what 2 chapters?
You all finished with it?
Yeah, all I can get. I think I was supposed to do some English, but I don't know.
And you better find out.
Oh, gee whiz, how can I? She threw some stuff at us right at the end of the hour. Nobody could have got it if I did.
They might have. Why don't you call someone?
Oh, all right, I'll call Lloyd Smith. Maybe he'll know. 2903. Lloyd? Hank. Hey, what did Miss Jackson assign for class tomorrow?
Well, she said to read chapters 9 and 10. I guess she meant so we could decide on them just as we have been doing. Anyway, that's what I'm going to study. If we don't do it tomorrow, we'll have to do it later anyhow.
But you don't know for sure. Well, thanks, Lloyd. Goodbye. Chapters 9 and 10. Maybe. If it's not 9 and 10, well, then I've read them for nothing. Besides, I've done enough work for one night.
Perhaps Hank wasn't entirely to blame that he wasn't prepared for English class the next day. But Beverly Anderson was prepared. She had taken it upon herself to make sure what she was supposed to do, and had written it down so it wouldn't slip her mind. Lloyd Smith could contribute to the class discussion too, because he had learned that you can't let things slide and expect to keep up. And Hank? Oh, he had a couple of bad moments. He hardly knew what was being talked about, but he managed to avoid being called on to recite, and no one except himself was the wiser. I could unfold this slip of paper right now and see whether we, the teachers and I, have been wrong, and Hank Evans has been right. Does it make any difference if you let things slide once in a while? But let me tell you another incident in Hank's career. He and Lloyd Smith used to get their lessons together. It was an even-up proposition. Neither one of them did more work than the other.
Quantity x minus 3 times quantity x minus 5. Hey, look here, Lloyd. This isn't going to prove out. We've got a mistake somewhere.
Well, maybe it's up here in this first substitution. Hey, how'd that 5 get in there?
Hey, that's it. How'd we miss that? Let's see.
Well, it's going to factor now.
Sure it is. Of all the dumb mistakes. And that finishes the problems, too.
Yeah, as soon as we can copy them over.
Copy 'em over? What for?
Well, I figured all over the place. Mr. Ellis will never be able to find my answers.
I'll draw a circle around the answers. He wants to see how we got 'em, doesn't he?
Well, sure, I intended to put in all the figuring, but like there, where you marked out all that stuff. Don't you want to copy it over so it'll look better?
Ah, is this art or algebra? I got all the answers, and they're all right. That's all I care about.
Well, I think I'll copy mine.
Suit yourself.
It may not be quite fair to say that this attitude toward his work was what you remembered about Hank Evans. Hank was friendly, intelligent, popular, and had a way with people. Most of the time, he was an asset to Lincoln High and to himself. But there were times.
Say, did you get your theme finished?
Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty good. I've only got about 4 more pages to type.
To type? Well, they're supposed to be handed in this morning.
But Miss Granby said they were due on the 27th.
I've got news for you, boy. This is the 27th, Wednesday the 27th.
But we always hand themes in on Friday. I didn't look it up. I just naturally thought Friday was the 27th.
How'd you ever let a thing like that slip your...
For probably the first time, Hank couldn't make anyone see how reasonable his error had been. Miss Granby asked him to see her after class.
Hank, I wanted to talk with you for some time. I have your theme here, the one that came in 2 days late.
But I told you...
Please, Hank, let me finish. This is an excellent theme. It's well written, and for once you've taken the trouble to make it neat. But it was late.
Miss Granby,
There's more, Hank. Not all we asked for is here. A part of the assignment was to make an outline for the theme, too.
An outline?
You knew you were supposed to make an outline. Why didn't you?
I didn't think it was important. If I can write a good theme without making an outline, why do I have to?
That's not the point. Hank, I can teach you how to punctuate and to spell and how to write themes. But more important, you must learn to face responsibility. While you're a student at Lincoln High, it's your job to know what the lesson is, how it's to be done, and when it's expected. I can't make you responsible. That you have to do for yourself. That's all, Hank. Thank you.
That's appreciation for you. After all the work I went to. Huh. My responsibility, she says. I know what's the matter. My sister Vera always made straight A's, and everybody thinks I've got to be just like her. All the teachers who taught Vera will be on my neck, no matter what I do.
Well, maybe Hank Evans did get something from that talk, because after that he took special pains to find out the what, when, and how in Miss Granby's classes. But people don't change completely as a result of one conversation over one assignment. Often it takes something big to convince a fellow he's on the wrong track and really needs to mend his ways. Maybe this is the something big for Hank Evans. What is it? Didn't I tell you? This is one vote in the school election. But there's one story about Hank I would like to tell you before I tell you about the election. Last year, Hank Evans went out for the debate team. He and Beverly Anderson were selected for the affirmative against Wilson High. In the practice session, Hank and Beverly were pitted against Lloyd Smith and Elsie Taylor.
Since our opponents have failed to establish any basis for a change, we must realize that this contention should stand as stated.
Fine job, Hank. I wish I could make things sound as good as you do.
Oh, it was nothing. Nothing. At least Bev doesn't think so.
Well, what's the matter? Don't you like the way your partner mowed us down?
Oh, sure, he's great, with his gift of gab. But all the facts are in my file box.
Well, Bev's a great one for facts. You ought to see inside that file box. It's full of resolutions and quotations.
Well, all I can say is, somebody's going to get wise that his arguments are nobody's opinion but his own. Me, I like to be prepared.
Oh, that's a good scout. Hey, I'm rich. Come on, I'll buy you all a soda.
Good
Wow,
deal. Let's
that
go.
sounds good.
Hank didn't make many notes or collect many facts. He didn't think it was worth doing. And the idea that he wasn't doing his share didn't even occur to him. Not until the debate tournament got underway. Then, not being sure of his facts and faced by students from Wilson who knew their facts, Hank began to suffer from a strange, terrible malady, stage fright. With stage fright, his ability to make his argument sound convincing evaporated. It was pretty bad. He knew that he had let Beverly down, and not just Beverly, but the school. The tournament was lost, of course. Lincoln lost because of Hank Evans, the guy who could have prepared himself, but didn't. Could he be trusted again? Another test was coming up very soon for Hank Evans. Not an ordinary test. It might be better to call it a judgment of Hank by his fellow students. Hank was nominated for president of the student body, and the other candidate was his friend, Lloyd Smith. The election was held this morning during the first period.
For president, Hank Evans and Lloyd Smith. Vote for one. Which one? Hank? He's friendly, popular, good-looking. He'd give outsiders a good impression of the school. Or would he? Lloyd Smith? Not quite so cocksure, but a good student, dependable, always responsible. He never lets you down. Hank Evans or Lloyd Smith? Vote for one. Which one?
Each of the boys had something to recommend him, and each had his followers. We knew the election was going to be close.
Look, it's a tie. 195 votes apiece.
Hey, you guys, look at this tie.
What do we do now?
Mr. Gordon, it's a tie. Hank and Lloyd both have the same number of votes.
Are you sure?
We checked and rechecked. It comes out the same. A deadlock.
Does this mean we have to hold the election over?
Well, perhaps not. Doesn't your Constitution provide for an absentee ballot?
Yeah, but was anybody absent?
Well, let's have Miss Jenkins check to see if there are any absentees this morning. If there were, they should be allowed to vote, too.
Yeah,
Good idea. I wonder who was
anyone out
absent
here?
this morning.
How
You
about
know?
English?
There was only one person absent this morning, and his vote will determine who will be elected. How was he voted? For Hank, the more popular one, or for Lloyd, the more responsible one? Here it is, the one vote that decides the election. Is it for Hank or for Lloyd? How would you vote? Why?
So I'm wrangling two scanners right now. My assistant is not working this week. He's on vacation. So it's me like trying to splice things and all that nonsense. Anyways, this next film was donated to us recently, like this week. No, last week. It showed up. And there's two films in this, and we'll try to watch them both today. I haven't seen these. They're not even in my database yet. I unpacked them and said, maybe I'll show these on my show. So this first one is The Secret Way. Enjoy. I'm going to try to fix this sound problem. One second. Well, this is really frustrating. It's not really responding. I'm going to have to figure this out. In the meantime, let's watch Raymond Die Springs. Enjoy.
Today's modern, efficient Raymond Die Springs, color-coded to show the work range for which they have been engineered, are the products of almost a half-century of continuous research and development programs conducted by Barnes Group Incorporated. Before we learn how to select, use, and maintain these vital mechanical elements, let us briefly examine some of the basic scientific facts about springs. First of all, what is a spring? It is a device whose function is to store energy elastically. Therefore, any material which has the property of elasticity, that is, the ability to return to its original shape and dimensions when forces are applied and removed, may be considered for use as a spring. Materials that have the properties to qualify them under the technical definition are surprisingly varied and cover a truly broad range. It quickly becomes apparent, of course, that the heavy demands put on die springs under shock loading, constant high-speed deflection, heat, and other fatiguing stresses makes the selection of the correct material a matter of the greatest importance. To meet the many demands placed on a die spring, Raymond engineers have standardized on a special analysis electric furnace chrome vanadium steel, SAE 6150. This tough alloy is another of the reasons why Raymond springs have their famous extra margin of performance. Also of great importance is the shape of the wire from which the helical die spring will be wound. Common from earliest times is the round spring wire cross-section. Although the stress flow in round wire can be controlled, the amount of material for the wire's size is not sufficient for optimum load carrying. Putting more material into the space with a square results in high stress concentration in corners and produces a great potential for metal fracture and spring failure. Years of research and testing have resulted in development of the best cross-section for use in Raymond springs. It is rectangular with rounded corners. This shape allows the greatest amount of material to be packed in the smallest space and provides protection against fractures which result when stresses build up at sharp corners. The optimum material in the form best suited for the application is converted into the industry's toughest springs by specially engineered Raymond machine tools and the skill of experienced Raymond technicians. All of the many manufacturing steps are conducted under strict quality control, inspection, and testing to protect the long service life that has been engineered into every Raymond spring. Small batch heat treating of springs in furnaces of the optimum design under rigidly maintained conditions assure you the correct Rockwell hardness, the specified steel temper, the exact tensile strength required for the spring's design. Charts and records from this and following manufacturing steps accompany the springs from station to station, giving the batch's full pedigree to Raymond quality control personnel. Under maximum load, ordinary springs will take a set, not return to their original free length, become shorter, and lose their load-producing ability. Every Raymond die spring is sent through 2 remove set operations. This assures you that these springs, used within their recommended limits, will not fail in operation because of taking set. Both ends of each Raymond spring are ground to provide a reliable, flat, maximum bearing surface which permits the spring to compress evenly throughout its length. The result is uniform load and stress values in each spring coil. Each is doing its full share, and high stress concentrations are not being built up in any single coil. Another reason for Raymond Springs' longer life and better performance. Introduced by Barnes Group Incorporated in 1929, this innovation, shot peening of springs, cold works and toughens the surfaces, raising the metal's physical strength where stress is highest. Precisely controlled shot peening is still used to extend the life of highly stressed springs. Springs subject to lower stress levels are treated with a sandblasting process to produce a similar effect. The final production step is the application of a specially formulated colored coating to instantly identify the finished Raymond Die Springs work range. Before your eyes is a conclusive demonstration of Raymond Die Springs superiority. 2 springs, Raymond and one of another well-known manufacturer, both identical in size and work range, are compressed in the same manner in the same equipment. Notice that after the other manufacturer's die spring has reached its full travel, the better performing Raymond die spring continues to compress and apply load. The selection of the correct die springs for strippers, pressure pads, and other die components is part of the design function. Don't wait until the tool is built to determine which springs, and how many, are needed for the job. Some of the spring terminology needed for adequate understanding of die spring selection and use are free length, the measurement of the spring before it has been placed under load; hole diameter, the nominal outside diameter of the spring, actually the size of the hole into which it will nest; rod diameter, the nominal inside diameter of the spring, actually the diameter of the rod over which it will fit; preload, the distance the free length of the spring is reduced by the pressure of the assembled tool; operating travel, the linear measurement which is subtracted from the spring length after operating force has been applied; compressed length, the length of the spring after work force has been applied. Barnes Group Incorporated introduced its well-known registered color coding system to give instant visual identification of the spring's work range to prevent errors in spring selection and installation. Blue Raymond springs are for medium duty application; red, medium heavy duty; gold, heavy duty; and green, extra heavy duty. The designer should specify springs both by color and work range designations as well as size. The 4 color-coded ranges are engineered to provide the user increases in load from one group to another, yet retain the same physical dimensions, such as hole size, rod size, and free length. Raymond Die Springs offer the designer and tool maker the industry's widest.
That was weird. What happened? Man, technical problems today. Oh boy. All right, we're going to try the audio one more time and see what happens with the film that I'm got behind me. Let's see. Let's try it. All right, I'm seeing something. All right, here we go.
In a little farmhouse near the forest lived Granny Pearl, children who visited her each summer, including Willie, who was always getting into some mischief. One day, Granny's ball of wool rolled away.
Oh, let me see now. Now, where's that wool got to? Oh, Mary, Johnny, Willie, come help me. Go fetch my ball of wool like good children, dear. Here it is, Mary, come on. Oh, look at those birds. Go away, Fido. Down, boy. Poor birds. I'll set you free. Oh, watch out. Oh, dear, what was that? Oh, my head. Bye-bye, birdies.
Just then, in the forest nearby, a woodpecker and a bluebird were so busy searching for their dinner that they didn't even see Willie hiding in the bushes. The naughty fellow had set a bird trap. When Mr. Bluebird became too curious, Willie got ready to spring the trap. bluebird turned just in time to escape by the tip of his tail.
We saved him! Oh, yeah!
Willie was very angry as he walked through the forest.
Oh, no!
A wild boar. Frightened, Willie ran into the forest as fast as he could. So fast, he didn't see the bear trap in front of him.
Serves him right! I say so!
Try as he might, Willie couldn't escape from the trap. Now he knew how the little birds he'd caught had fell in his trap. Of course, the others were worried when Willie didn't come home that night. So they set out to find him.
Willie! 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 Willie!
But poor Willie was too deep in the ground to hear them. Only the 3 meadowlarks knew where he was, and they were soon joined by a crow.
Look! There's somebody down there!
That's right! A little boy!
Is he a friend of yours?
Not mine, no.
We must try to help him anyway. Let's see. There must be some way. I must try to think of something. Let me see. Somebody help me! Help! My, he looks hungry. I have it. You fly north, you fly south. You fly east and I'll go west. We'll find somebody who knows him.
And so they flew slowly through the dense forest, looking for someone to help the tired little boy.
Willie! 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 Maybe he's run away from home.
Just then the crow spied Mary and Johnny.
Willie! Oh, I'm scared. Me too.
Who are you looking for? Who? Oh! Hello, children. You looking for someone?
Oh, he seems to know something.
If you're looking for a horrid little boy, follow me. I know the secret way. Come on.
Johnny and Mary hesitated, but they did follow the crow. Poor Willie had just about given up hope when he heard them coming.
There he is.
Oh, Willie. Oh, he's safe. He's safe. It's good.
See? I told you so. I flew and flew till I found somebody. I'm not a bird brain like some others I know.
Johnny and Mary quickly lowered a vine into the pit and helped Willie to escape.
You have to be clever to be a crow.
Bright and early the next morning, Willie got out of bed and he saw some bluebirds outside his window.
Johnny, Mary, come here. Keep quiet.
They watched the mother bluebird feed her family. Willie would take good care of them now, for he could think of nothing but how it was the birds who had saved his life. So he asked the other children to tiptoe quietly away as he carefully closed the window.
For some people, that's nightmare fodder. I think somebody said that they saw a German sign in there, so this was definitely European, and it was I don't know if it was licensed by Sterling Films. Sterling Films licensed a lot of material from Canada, from other countries. So I wouldn't be surprised if they licensed this from a German filmmaker and then they dubbed it and released it under their own title. I don't know if this is a grim fairy tale. It is certainly grim-ish, but still pretty great. Big fan. Right, let's see, what do we got here? Yeah, let's learn about planning your career. Thanks to Cornet Films. That's actually Encyclopedia Britannica. Sorry.
From the time you were born, the question of your career has always been important.
Look at him dancing at the music. He's going to be a musician.
Not if I can help it. With that grip, he'll be able to swing a hefty bat. How about it, fella? Big league for you?
And later on, when you were still in a playpen...
What a little man. Here's a present for you, Bobby. Now you can be a doctor, just like Dr. Milan.
When you got to be 5 or 6...
What are you going to be when you grow up?
An acrobat in a circus.
Won't you be afraid of the lions and the tigers?
And as you grew older, your ideas kept changing.
That's what I'm going to be, a train engineer. When I grow up, I'm going to be a policeman and direct traffic. I'm going to be a truck driver and drive all over the country and go wherever I want to.
And now that you're in high school, you find that what you think about your future makes a difference in the things you do today.
You going to sign up for typing this semester, Bob?
Gee, I don't know. I can't make up my mind.
I am. You have to know how to type to be a newspaper columnist.
Columnist? I thought you were going to get married and raise a family.
Well, every girl has 2 careers, you know.
You don't have to know how to type to be a doctor, that's for sure.
You never can tell. You might not become a doctor after all.
Oh, yes, I will. Dad would have a cerebral spasm if I didn't take over his practice.
Gee, I wish I knew where I was headed.
I should think you'd go in for art. Those dance posters were swell.
Yeah, well, I don't do.
So there you are. All your life, you've been thinking about a career. But me, like Bob, you're still not sure about what you want to do. Or, what may be just as bad, you have only one career picked out, like Janet, and you haven't even considered other possibilities. Or maybe, like Dick, you've let someone else choose your career without doing any thinking of your own. Whichever it is, it's time for you to face up to one of the most important matters of your life, finding a career in which you'll be happy and useful. There are 2 things you need to know in order to choose your career intelligently. For one, you must know something about a wide variety of occupations. And the other thing you need to know is yourself. Many tests have been devised to help you reach a better understanding of yourself. For instance, this one, called a verbal meaning test, lets you know how well you understand the real meanings of words and the ideas which they convey. This spatial ability test helps you understand how well you can think about objects in their solid form and in their relationships to other objects. This one tests your reasoning ability, how well you are able to work out the answers to problems you may be facing. This one tests your number ability, how skillful you are in working with figures. And the word fluency test helps you to know how easy it is for you to talk and write. There are many such tests, which your school counselor or someone else in your school can probably arrange for you to take.
Well, Bob, let's see. These tests show that you're especially high in spatial ability. That's ability to think about things in 3 dimensions.
Golly, I never expected that.
And the score on your number ability test is very high.
Well, I've always made good grades in math, Mr. Bolton.
Yes, that fits, doesn't it? You'll find that the grades you've made in different school subjects will give you a good idea of where your interests and abilities lie.
How did I make out in verbal meaning and word fluency?
About average for your age and grade in verbal meaning, below average in word fluency.
I've never been a great talker.
You're well above average, though, in reasoning ability. Here, this is the way it looks on a chart. You might call this your academic ability profile. This ought to go into your notebook.
Notebook?
Oh, it's not as bad as all that. This is something you get a lot of fun out of. Finding your career is a good bit like finding the solution in a good mystery story. First thing you do is build a lot of clues. Then you pile them together until they point to the right answers.
How do you mean?
Well, you'll need a good loose-leaf notebook like this one, something you can add to from time to time. You divide it up into 3 sections. In the first section, you build up a picture of yourself.
Oh, that ought to be easy.
I don't know. It's not as easy as you'd expect. You'll probably meet a lot of surprises as you build this picture. Now, in the second section, you list all the different kinds of careers that interest you. You make a list of things you want to know about each one, and then you study each one accordingly.
What kinds of things?
Oh, the type of work done in that occupation. Special interests and skills that are required. How much the job pays. Opportunities for advancement. Whether the job's actually to be done. All that sort of thing. I'll be very happy to help you work out a list of those if you want me to.
That'd be swell. What about the third section?
Well, you can probably guess what that is. In the third section, you check your abilities and interests against the requirements and the opportunities of various occupations. In other words, the third section is a combination of the first 2.
I think I will start a career notebook. What else should go into the first section on myself?
Well, a record of the grades you've made in your different school subjects would help. Why don't you have a little talk with your different teachers? I'm sure they'll be quite willing to give you a frank appraisal of your abilities and qualities.
Gee, I don't know, Mr. Bolton.
It's a chance to see yourself as others see you. I wouldn't skip it.
Well, okay. How hobbies?
They certainly should be in there, too. And interests. We have an interest inventory that I'm sure will go a long way toward helping you clarify in your own mind just what your preferences really are. Would you like to take it?
Sure.
So Bob fills out an interest inventory. Here, too, the results are something of a surprise. He hasn't realized before how interested he has always been in scientific matters. His interest in mechanical things is high, too. And he has strong outdoor. Those are something of a surprise. His artistic interests are just as high as he has expected. Down it all goes into his notebook. Tests help, of course, but Bob learns a great deal more about himself when he talks with some of the teachers he knows best.
Well, I know writing isn't easy for you, Robert, but that's no reason for you to neglect it. I think your themes would be very much better if you'd spend a little more time on them. Particularly when you're so good in grammar.
Well, there is one other thing I think I'd like to tell you. When you're playing on a team, Bob, it seems to me that you depend too much on yourself instead of playing with the whole team. Now, I think that's something that you need to learn.
You're doing excellent work in class, Robert, particularly your sculpturing, which I think is even better than your painting.
And so Bob builds up a picture of himself as he really is. His mental abilities, how well he gets along with others, his interests, the grades he has made in his various classes, what his teachers think about him, the kinds of hobbies he has, everything he can think of. And now he's ready to start thinking about possible careers. From among the 25,000 different kinds of jobs there are in this country, how will Bob find the ones most suitable for him? Here's where the first section of his notebook helps him narrow down the field. He knows that he likes outdoor work. That means that he probably doesn't want a desk job where he would do most of his work on paper. He isn't too comfortable working with people. Personalities seem sort of puzzling at times. He'd rather stick to things that are more predictable, like facts and figures. He gets a kick out of using tools and doing things with his hands. So looking for jobs that match his interests helps Bob get closer to his career among the 25,000 choices open to him. And here's another matter that he must consider. How much time and money can he spend, or does he want to spend, on his education and training. Many jobs have definite educational requirements. To be a physician calls for at least 6 years in college. To be an engineer, you'll need a college degree. If you want to teach, you'll have to qualify for a teaching certificate. But you can get a job as a secretary or a bookkeeper after a year or two in a business school. And of course, there are many jobs available to a high school graduate with no further education. So the amount of education Bob is planning will affect the types of careers that he'll think about. And of course, it works the other way too. The kind of career you want will affect your educational plans. Now Bob is ready to find out more about the careers that interest him the most. The library is the best place for that.
This is our collection on careers.
Do you have any on art?
I thought you'd ask about that. Yes, there are several of them here. Here's one on illustration, and here's one on advertising. What about some other fields? You don't want to limit your search too soon, you know.
Well, that's right. I'd better check up on engineering, too. You see, my ability scores were pretty high in math.
What kind of engineering?
Oh, I don't know for sure. Civil engineering, I guess, and I like science.
I think these books will help you find out what you want to know.
Thank you, Miss Reed.
So now Bob goes to work in earnest on the second section of his notebook, a survey of possible careers. With Mr. Bolton's help, he has worked out a list of things he wants to know about each career that he examines, and he tries to find the answers to these questions. He learns as much as he can from books, but he doesn't depend on them entirely. For instance, when he can't find what he wants to know about a career as a research scientist, he writes to various companies for more information. And what's even better, he arranges to visit a friend of the family who is an engineer.
Glad to see you, Bob.
Oh, it's nice of you to let me come out here, Mr. Trimble.
Not at all. Glad to see you're planning your future so systematically.
You know, I read a lot about civil engineering.
Well, then you ought to have a pretty good idea of the work we're doing here.
It's not the same as seeing for yourself.
That's right. Well, if you like what you see and you're still interested, come see me next June about a summer job. Then you will really know whether you like engineering or not.
Mr. Trimble is right. The best way to find out whether you really like an occupation is to work at it for a summer or as a part-time job. But Bob isn't ready for that yet. He's still hunting. He doesn't limit his search to professional and white-collar jobs. For instance, he finds that a career as a skilled mechanic has much more to offer than he had thought. And he's particularly interested in the work of the tool and die maker. But on the other hand, he'd like to continue with his artwork, too. He considers window decorating and other art activities, such as advertising layout and commercial illustration. Although he still doesn't feel he has found the right career, Bob now starts building up the third section of his notebook. He compares his own interests and abilities with the requirements of the careers he has examined. He makes up a series of profile graphs to compare what he has learned about himself with the requirements of the different jobs he is considering. But this gives him only cues. There's much more to be considered, including the advice of his parents.
If you're really interested in civil engineering, I'm sure Mr. Trimble would help you.
The State University has a fine engineering school.
Yeah, Dad, but I don't know. I'm not sold on it. For one thing, I hate to give up my artwork.
Well, it could always be a hobby.
How about ceramics? You've always done such nice work.
It would be fun, Mom, but I don't know.
It seems that job opportunities in art are pretty slim.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
But ceramics does seem to fit your abilities, both mechanical and artistic. I think that lamp you made is just beautiful.
It was fun making.
And so the search goes on. Each night, Bob seems a little closer to finding the right choice. And it's fun, just as Mr. Bolton had said, like putting together the clues in a detective story. What will it be? Commercial illustrator? Skilled machinist? Ceramic designer? Mechanical engineer? Yes, they're all possibilities, but none of them seems right. There's no telling when a good idea may come or what might suggest the vocation Bob will eventually choose.
Good morning, Dad. Hi, sis. Hello, Mom. Hey, new dishes.
Yes, they're made of plastic.
Nice, huh?
Yes, they are. They're designed by Alto Scone.
Say, Dad, that's something I haven't looked into yet.
What's that?
Industrial design. Boy, that's something I'd really like.
Yes, that does sound like a good idea, Robert.
Well, have you looked into architecture? That might be something you'd like.
Golly, that's right. Industrial design and architecture.
And now, at last, Bob feels he is getting close to finding his own career. He doesn't have to decide at this time, of course, but the thinking he is doing now will pay him dividends all the rest of his life.
Such happy music. Thanks everybody for tuning in today, in spite of all the technical problems, and despite me having apple in my mouth. Let me chew it real quick. Do it off screen. Anyhow, yeah, so we got a lot more films to go, obviously, and we love your comments, and we love when you share what we do with other people and tell the world that you like us by hitting the like button or the subscribe button. You can also go to avgeeks.com and find other things that we put online. I said yesterday I put on some more films that I haven't actually shown on this show that are on the website. So go over there and see them. And plus there's literally several thousand films there. Also, you can buy us coffee. Go to buymeacoffee.com/avgeeks, and I will use that caffeine. Caffeine is the lubricant that drives AV Geeks when we're doing tedious, annoying things with technology. Yes. So tomorrow we'll be back, Wednesday, and 1 o'clock, and we'll show you some more stuff. Just a reminder to please rewind and love each other, and we will see you tomorrow. Everybody have a good rest of your day. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.